Welcome to our Scripture Society channel. Today, we embark on an intriguing journey to explore one of the most profound questions in history. Was Jesus a real person? Over the centuries, Jesus of Nazareth has inspired countless individuals, sparked global movements, and shaped the course of human history. But beyond the spiritual and theological significance, we must ask, what evidence supports the existence of Jesus as a historical figure? In this video, we'll delve into ancient texts, archaeological findings, and the perspectives of renowned historians to uncover the truth behind this pivotal question. Join us as we examine the compelling evidence and separate fact from fiction in our quest to understand the reality of Jesus of Nazareth. To understand the existence of Jesus as a historical figure, it's essential to place him within the broader context of first-century Judea. This region, under Roman rule, was a melting pot of diverse cultures, religions, and social dynamics. It was during this time that various movements and figures emerged, leaving their marks on history. Among these, Jesus of Nazareth stands out not only for his religious impact but also for the historical documentation surrounding him. The primary sources for Jesus' life are the canonical Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Written within a few decades of his death, these texts, while theological in nature, also provide valuable historical information. Scholars often compare these texts with non-Christian sources to corroborate their accounts. For instance, the Jewish historian Flavius Josephus and the Roman historian Tacitus make references to Jesus, providing external attestations of his existence. Flavius Josephus, a first-century Jewish historian, is one of the most significant non-Christian sources mentioning Jesus. In his work Antiquities of the Jews, Josephus refers to Jesus twice. The more substantial reference, often called the Testimonium Flavianum, describes Jesus as a wise man and a doer of wonderful works, who was crucified by Pontius Pilate. Though some parts of this passage are debated as later Christian interpolations, the core reference to Jesus is widely accepted by scholars. Another important source is the Roman historian Tacitus, who wrote about Jesus in his Annals. Tacitus mentions that Christus, Latin for Christ, from whom Christians derive their name, suffered under Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius. This account, written around AD 116, provides independent Roman confirmation of the crucifixion of Jesus. Archaeology offers indirect evidence supporting the existence of Jesus by providing context to the world he lived in. Excavations in Jerusalem and other parts of Israel have uncovered artifacts and structures that align with the descriptions in the Gospels. For example, the discovery of the Pilate stone in Caesarea Maritima in 1961 confirmed the historical presence of Pontius Pilate, the Roman prefect who ordered Jesus' crucifixion. Additionally, the discovery of early Christian symbols and inscriptions, such as those in the catacombs of Rome, demonstrates the rapid spread of Christianity in the first few centuries AD. These findings suggest a significant and influential figure at the movement's origin, lending credence to the historical Jesus. The overwhelming consensus among historians and scholars is that Jesus was a historical figure. This consensus is based on the convergence of evidence from multiple sources. While the supernatural claims about Jesus are matters of faith, the existence of a Jewish preacher named Jesus, who was crucified under Pontius Pilate, is widely accepted. Bart D. Ehrman, a well-known historian and agnostic, argues convincingly for the historical existence of Jesus in his book Did Jesus Exist? Ehrman points out that virtually all scholars, regardless of their religious beliefs, agree on the basic facts of Jesus' life. This agreement spans across secular historians, Jewish scholars, and Christian theologians. The rapid spread of Christianity in the decades following Jesus' death also supports his historical existence. The early Christians' willingness to endure persecution and martyrdom suggests they were profoundly influenced by a real person. The transformation of individuals like Paul the Apostle, who went from persecuting Christians to becoming one of the faith's most ardent proponents, further underscores this point. Paul's letters, some of the earliest New Testament writings, provide crucial evidence. Written within 20 to 30 years of Jesus' death, they reflect a consistent belief in Jesus as a historical figure. Paul's references to meeting Jesus' brother James and other early followers add another layer of historical validation. While the Gospels are theological documents, they also contain historical elements that can be critically analyzed. Scholars use criteria such as multiple attestation, embarrassment, and coherence to evaluate the historical reliability of Gospel accounts. Multiple attestation involves corroborating stories across different sources. For example, the crucifixion of Jesus is mentioned in all 4 Gospels and in several non-Christian sources. The criterion of embarrassment considers whether the authors would include potentially awkward or difficult details unless they were true. For instance, the Gospels depict Jesus' disciples in a less than flattering light at times, which adds to the credibility of the accounts. The coherence criterion checks whether the reported events fit with the known historical and cultural context of the time. In addition to Josephus, other Jewish sources provide indirect evidence of Jesus' existence. The Talmud, a central text of Rabbinic Judaism, contains several references to Jesus. These references, while not flattering, acknowledge his existence and the impact of his teachings. They describe Jesus as a teacher who led many Jews astray, which indirectly confirms his influence. These Jewish sources are important because they come from a perspective outside the Christian tradition. Their acknowledgement of Jesus, even in a critical light, supports the historical reality of his presence and impact. Writings of the early Church Fathers, such as Clement of Rome, Ignatius of Antioch, and Justin Martyr, provide additional evidence. These early Christian leaders, writing in the 1st and 2nd centuries AD, refer to Jesus as a historical figure and cite eyewitness accounts. Their writings emphasize the continuity of the Christian message from Jesus' time to their own, further reinforcing the historical foundation of Jesus' life and ministry. While the consensus among historians is that Jesus existed, some argue against it. These mythicist claims suggest that Jesus is a fictional or mythological character. However, these theories often rely on speculative and fringe arguments that lack strong historical support. Scholars like Bart Ehrman and Maurice Casey have extensively critiqued these positions, demonstrating that the evidence for Jesus' historicity is far more compelling. In conclusion, the question, was Jesus a real person?, is answered affirmatively by a vast body of evidence. The convergence of historical records, archaeological findings, scholarly consensus, and the impact of his followers all point to the existence of Jesus of Nazareth as a historical figure. While debates about his divinity and the supernatural aspects of his life belong to the realm of faith, the historical evidence for his existence is robust and convincing. Through this examination, we not only affirm the reality of Jesus but also appreciate the profound influence he continues to have on the world today. To further delve into the historical context of Jesus' existence, we must consider the socio-political environment of first-century Judea. This period was marked by Roman occupation, and the Jewish people were yearning for liberation and the arrival of a promised Messiah. Various messianic movements and figures arose during this time, but none have been as enduring and influential as Jesus of Nazareth. This context of expectation and turmoil provides a backdrop against which Jesus' ministry and its subsequent impact can be understood. The Gospels, despite their theological motivations, offer rich details about the historical setting. They describe Roman practices, Jewish customs, and local geography in ways that align with other historical sources. For instance, the depiction of Herod's reign and the administrative details of Roman governance found in the Gospels are corroborated by external historical records. This consistency between the Gospels and independent historical sources strengthens the argument for their reliability as documents reflecting real events and people. A critical analysis of the Gospel narratives reveals several layers of historical credibility. One key method used by scholars is the criterion of multiple attestation. This method examines whether certain events or sayings of Jesus are independently reported in multiple sources. For example, the crucifixion of Jesus is a well-attested event, mentioned not only in all 4 Gospels but also by non-Christian sources like Josephus and Tacitus. The independent corroboration of such a central event by multiple sources adds significant weight to its historical authenticity. The criterion of embarrassment also plays a crucial role in assessing the reliability of Gospel accounts. This criterion suggests that certain details in the narratives that might seem embarrassing or counterproductive to the early Christian community are more likely to be authentic. For instance, the portrayal of Peter, a leading figure in the early church, denying Jesus 3 times during the trial is unlikely to be a fabrication, as it presents one of their leaders in a negative light. Such details enhance the credibility of the accounts as they are less likely to have been invented by the authors. The coherence of gospel narratives with the broader historical and cultural context further supports their reliability. The descriptions of Jewish customs, such as Sabbath observance and Passover rituals, align with what is known from other historical and archaeological sources. The social dynamics, including the tensions between different Jewish sects like the Pharisees and Sadducees, are accurately reflected in the Gospels. These elements, when taken together, provide a compelling case for the historical grounding of the Gospel accounts. Moreover, the rapid spread of Christianity in the decades following Jesus' death is another significant piece of evidence supporting his historical existence. The emergence of a new religious movement, particularly one that faced considerable persecution, suggests a powerful and charismatic founder. The early Christians' willingness to endure suffering and martyrdom indicates that they were deeply convinced by their experiences and the teachings of Jesus. The transformation of key figures, such as Paul, who went from persecuting Christians to becoming one of their most influential leaders, underscores the profound impact Jesus had on his followers. Paul's letters, some of the earliest New Testament writings, provide direct evidence of the early Christian belief in Jesus as a historical figure. Written within a few decades of Jesus' death, these letters reference interactions with individuals who had known Jesus personally. Paul's mention of meeting James, the brother of Jesus, and other early apostles adds a layer of historical credibility. These references help bridge the gap between the historical Jesus and the early Christian communities, demonstrating a direct line of influence. In addition to textual evidence, archaeological discoveries have provided valuable insights into the historical context of Jesus' life. Excavations in places like Nazareth, Capernaum, and Jerusalem have uncovered artifacts and structures that correspond to the descriptions in the Gospels. For instance, the discovery of first-century synagogues in Capernaum and Magdala provides tangible evidence of the settings where Jesus is said to have taught. These archaeological findings, while not direct evidence of Jesus himself, support the historical plausibility of the Gospel narratives. One of the most significant archaeological discoveries related to Jesus' time is the Pilate Stone, found in Caesarea Maritima in 1961. This limestone block bears an inscription mentioning Pontius Pilate, the Roman prefect who ordered Jesus' crucifixion. This find provides direct evidence of Pilate's historical existence and his role in the governance of Judea during the time of Jesus. Such discoveries help to substantiate the historical framework within which Jesus' life and ministry took place. Another valuable archaeological find is the ossuary of Caiaphas, the high priest involved in Jesus' trial. Discovered in a tomb in Jerusalem, the ossuary is inscribed with the name Joseph, son of Caiaphas, which aligns with the gospel accounts of the high priest Caiaphas. This discovery adds another layer of historical context, supporting the existence of key figures mentioned in the New Testament. Beyond Jewish and Roman sources, early Christian writings outside the New Testament also provide evidence for Jesus' historical existence. The letters of early church fathers, such as Clement of Rome, Ignatius of Antioch, and Justin Martyr, frequently reference Jesus and his teachings. These writings, produced within a century of Jesus' death, reflect a continuity of belief and practice rooted in the historical figure of Jesus. The consistent portrayal of Jesus in these early Christian documents further supports his historicity. The writings of the early church fathers are particularly valuable because they often cite or reference earlier sources, including the Gospels and other apostolic writings. This chain of documentation provides a historical link from the time of Jesus to the later Christian community. The consistency and coherence of these writings, coupled with their proximity to the events they describe, add substantial weight to the historical case for Jesus. In addition to written sources, the rapid spread of Christian communities and their enduring traditions provide indirect evidence of Jesus' historical existence. The establishment of churches throughout the Roman Empire, the development of liturgical practices, and the preservation of oral traditions all point to a central figure whose life and teachings had a profound impact. The geographic and cultural diversity of early Christian communities, yet their shared core beliefs about Jesus, underscore the widespread and influential presence of a historical Jesus. Critics of Jesus' historicity, known as mythicists, argue that Jesus is a fictional or mythological character. However, these theories often rely on speculative interpretations and lack strong historical support. Mythicist arguments frequently compare Jesus to mythological figures from other cultures, suggesting that his story was constructed from existing myths. However, such comparisons are often superficial and ignore the substantial historical evidence supporting Jesus' existence. Scholars like Bart Ehrman and Maurice Casey have thoroughly critiqued mythicist claims, demonstrating that the evidence for Jesus' historicity is far more compelling. Ehrman, in particular, argues that the historical methods used by mythicists are flawed and that their conclusions do not withstand critical scrutiny. The consensus among professional historians, regardless of their religious beliefs, remains that Jesus was a real historical figure. While some aspects of Jesus' life, particularly the supernatural claims, are matters of faith and theology, the historical evidence for his existence is robust and compelling. The convergence of multiple lines of evidence, textual, archaeological, and historical, creates a strong case for the reality of Jesus of Nazareth. By examining this evidence, we gain a deeper understanding of the profound impact Jesus had on his followers and the world at large. The debate over Jesus' historicity also highlights the broader question of how we understand and interpret historical evidence. History, by its nature, involves the analysis of incomplete and often fragmentary records. The task of historians is to piece together these fragments to form a coherent picture of the past. In the case of Jesus, the convergence of evidence from diverse sources provides a robust foundation for his historicity. The study of Jesus' historicity also invites us to consider the role of historical figures in shaping cultural and religious movements. Jesus' teachings, as preserved in the Gospels, have had an unparalleled influence on Western civilization and beyond. His message of love, forgiveness, and redemption has inspired countless individuals and movements throughout history. Understanding Jesus as a historical figure allows us to appreciate the profound impact he has had on human history and culture. In conclusion, the question, was Jesus a real person?, is answered affirmatively by a vast body of evidence. The convergence of historical records, archaeological findings, scholarly consensus, and the impact of his followers all point to the existence of Jesus of Nazareth as a historical figure. While debates about his divinity and the supernatural aspects of his life belong to the realm of faith, the historical evidence for his existence is robust and convincing. Through this examination, we not only affirm the reality of Jesus but also appreciate the profound influence he continues to have on the world today. The exploration of Jesus' historicity is not just an academic exercise. It also has profound implications for contemporary faith and understanding. For believers, affirming the historical reality of Jesus strengthens the foundation of their faith. It connects their spiritual beliefs to a real person who lived and walked the earth. For skeptics and seekers, the historical evidence provides a basis for engaging with the figure of Jesus in a meaningful way, beyond the realm of myth and legend. As we conclude our exploration, we invite you to reflect on the evidence and consider the implications for your own understanding of history, faith, and the human experience. The story of Jesus of Nazareth, rooted in historical reality, continues to resonate across centuries and cultures, offering a message of hope, compassion, and transformation. Whether viewed through the lens of faith or history, Jesus remains a figure of profound significance, whose life and teachings continue to inspire and challenge us today.